Introduction: the seed that changed history. Have you ever watched someone else's victory and, instead of rejoicing, felt a tightness in your chest? Have you ever wanted something that belongs to someone else and, deep down, thought it was unfair not to have it? This silent feeling, often hidden behind smiles and forced compliments, has a name: envy. Few recognize it, but envy is not just a common feeling. It is a dangerous, ancient, and destructive spiritual force. The Bible reveals that envy did not originate on earth. It was born in heaven. Yes, even before sin entered the world, there was a heavenly creature who desired the throne of God. Lucifer, overcome by envy, started the greatest rebellion in history. This seed fell to earth, took root in Eden, and bore fruit in the heart of Cain. And since then, it has been passed down from generation to generation like a silent plague. Envy destroys families, ends friendships, weakens churches, and ruins destinies. In this chapter, we will delve into the scriptures to understand where it all began. We will see how envy disguises itself as righteousness, hides behind comparisons, and disguises itself as honest opinion. We will uncover its origins, its fruits, and, most importantly, how to eradicate from our lives before it destroys everything around us. If you want to be free, grow spiritually, and live God's purpose, you need to face this truth. Envy may be closer than you think. Prepare your heart. It's time to understand the origin of envy. 1. Envy in Lucifer's heart. Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 14. The origin of envy goes back to heaven, even before the creation of humanity. Lucifer, also called the morning star or son of the morning, was an exalted being, endowed with beauty, wisdom, and an honorable position among the angels. Ezekiel 28 verses 12 to 15. However, instead of gratitude, a dangerous desire arose within him. He wanted to be like God. Isaiah 14 verses 13 to 14 reveals Lucifer's heart. I will ascend to heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. Here we see the essence of envy, the burning desire to occupy a place that belongs to another. Lucifer was not content with his angelic position. He coveted the exclusive glory and authority of God. This wasn't just greed. It was a rebellion driven by envy. He didn't just want to grow. He wanted to take the place of his Creator. This envy led to his downfall. The one who wanted to ascend to heaven was cast down to the depths. The Bible says he was cast down to the ground. Isaiah 14 verse 12. His envy not only caused his downfall, but also influenced a third of the angels who rebelled with him. Revelation 12 verse 4. Lesson for us. Envy begins with dissatisfaction, grows with comparison, and ends with a fall. When someone desires to be what they are not called to be, they reject God's plan for their life. Lucifer's envy teaches us that even the highest can fall when they indulge in pure desires. 2. Envy as a rebellion against God. Envy is not just a negative feeling against others. It is, in essence, a direct affront to God. This is because when we envy someone, we are questioning what God has allowed, established, or granted to that person. We are saying, even if unconsciously, God has been unfair to me. This is what happened to Lucifer. He rebelled against the divine order. God had created him with beauty, wisdom, and authority, but he wanted more. He wanted to be equal to the Creator. This desire was not just greed. It was spiritual insubordination. Lucifer did not just want something that someone else had. He wanted to take God's place. This is rebellion. The same seed was planted in Eden. When Eve desired to be like God, knowing good and evil, she was also saying, I am not satisfied with what God has given me. The serpent, Satan, used envy as an instrument of seduction. The rebellion against God began with a seemingly harmless desire to be more. Envy is dangerous because it puts man at the center and removes God from the throne of the heart. Those who envy live grumbling, comparing themselves, complaining, and distancing themselves from the divine presence. The Bible is clear. For where envy is, there is confusion and every evil thing. James 3 verse 16. When someone feeds envy, they are aligning themselves with the same spirit that led Lucifer to fall. It is spiritual rebellion. But God calls us to obedience, contentment, and trust in Him. 3. Envy in Eden. The desire to be like God. Genesis 3 verse 5. Imagine living in a perfect paradise where everything is provided directly by God. No pain, no scarcity, no evil. Now imagine, in the midst of so much abundance, someone desiring precisely that which was not given to them. This is a root of envy. Having everything and still wanting what belongs to someone else. In this case, what is exclusive to God. Genesis 3 verse 5 reveals Satan's trickery when he tells a woman, "For God knows in the day you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil." This phrase ignited a dangerous spark in Eve, envy of the divine. She was already the image and likeness of God, but Satan made her desire that which was beyond her reach. Sovereignty, control, the power to define right and wrong. The serpent, moved by the same spirit that overthrew Lucifer, sowed doubt. Is God depriving you of something better? And that is how envy works. It distorts reality, generating dissatisfaction and rebellion. The sin in Eden was not just disobedience. It was envy disguised as a search for wisdom. He wanted to be like God. Adam consented, and that is where the tragedy of humanity began. When someone envies another's position, blessing, or gift, they are repeating Eve's mistake, questioning God's goodness, and wanting to occupy a place that does not belong to them. Be careful. The envy that began in heaven passed through Eden and may be knocking at your door. 4. The first murder motivated by envy, Genesis 4 verses 3 to 8. Have you ever stopped to think that the first murder in history was not motivated by direct hatred, but by envy? That's right. Envy was the fuel for the bloodshed at the beginning of humanity. Cain and Abel, two brothers, two altars, two offerings. Both presented themselves before God, but only one offering was accepted. Why? Because Abel offered the best with the right heart. Cain, on the other hand, gave something random, just to fulfill a ritual. God rejected Cain's offering, not out of favoritism, but out of justice. And instead of Cain repenting, he looked at his brother and envied him. Genesis 4 verse 5 says that Cain was furious, and his countenance fell. The anger he felt was not against himself, but against the one who had done the right thing, Abel. God still gave him a chance. If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? Genesis 4 verse 7. But Cain did not want to improve. He wanted to eliminate the pattern. Envy leads to spiritual blindness. Cain killed Abel, but the real target of his frustration was God. He could not bear to see God's favor over another. Envy is the same today. It kills friendships, destroys marriages, divides ministries, separates families. Envy is murderous, even when it does not take lives. It kills in silence, dreams, reputations, relationships. Cain was marked forever, but God's question echoes to this day. Where is your brother? What answer would you give? 5. Envy is the downfall of humanity. Have you ever noticed that envy is present in almost all of humanity's great mistakes? It is not just an individual feeling. It is a collective force that has dragged the entire world to its downfall. In heaven, envy overthrew Lucifer. In Eden, it seduced Eve. In the fields, it made Cain kill Abel. But the story does not end there. Since then, humanity has lived under the influence of an envious and rebellious heart against God. Envy is the root of many sins. It is sneaky, silent, but devastating. It does not appear screaming. It appears comparing. Why him and not me? Why was she chosen and not me? It sows doubt, conflict, and bitterness. James 3 verse 16 is direct. For where envy and selfish ambition exist, there's confusion and every evil. The fall of humanity was not just an error of judgment. It was the beginning of a corrupt mindset, a heart discontented with God's will. From Eden to present day, envy has remained a major cause of spiritual, emotional, and social ruin. It is present in social media, in silent comparisons, in disguised criticism, in the inability to rejoice in the success of others. It is a disease that corrodes the soul and separates man from God's purpose. As long as envy dominates the human heart, the fall will continue. But when we are healed of this poison, restoration begins. 6. Envy as internal spiritual corruption. Envy does not begin on the outside. It is born within the soul. It is a silent corruption that settles in the heart and contaminates everything around it: vision, emotions, attitudes, words. While many see envy as just an annoyance or a harmless jealousy, the Bible reveals it as something spiritually deadly. Jesus taught that evil comes from within the heart of man, Mark 7 verses 21 to 22, and among the sins listed is envy. It is a poison that does not need to be spoken to be real. The envious person may even seem religious, kind, or friendly, but they carry a secret war in their spirit. Envy creates a minefield within the soul, where everything the other person has becomes a threat, and everything the envious person does not have becomes a revolt against God. This type of corruption is profound because it acts like a silent destruction. It distorts the way we see others. It makes us distrust everything. It steals our peace and joy. It breaks our communion with God. The envious person cannot pray sincerely, cannot worship freely, cannot rejoice in the victories of others. He is internally imprisoned, corrupted by comparison and dissatisfaction. The biggest problem with envy is not what it does to others. It is what it does to us. It contaminates us, enslaves us, and distances us from grace. Liberation begins when we recognize, Lord, there is something wrong here inside. Cleanse my heart. 7. How to identify the seed of envy within us. The worst trap of envy is its ability to hide. Unlike anger, which explodes, or pride, which imposes itself, envy disguises itself as constructive criticism, as concern, as justice, even as spirituality. That is why we need to learn to identify this seed before it grows and destroys everything. Here are some clear signs. 1. Are you bothered by the victories of others? When someone prospers, is promoted, or is praised, do you feel uncomfortable even when you hide a smile? 2. Do you constantly compare yourself? Envy feeds comparison. Instead of looking at your own purpose, you get lost trying to measure your life by the yardstick of others. 3. Do you put others down to feel better? If you need to put someone down to value yourself, there may be a root of envy trying to grow. 4. Do you desire what others have? Not for what they are, but for who they have? It's not the car, the position, or the blessing. It's because it was him and not me. This is the seed of envy. 5. Do you have difficulty praising or celebrating sincerely? Your mouth may smile, but your heart closes. This reveals something that hasn't been dealt with inside. 6. Do you complain to God because you don't have what others have? Envy always questions divine justice. Why does he have it and I don't? This is the silent cry of the envious soul. 7. Do you feel pleasure when others fail? When someone falls, loses, or gets frustrated, and this brings secret relief, the alert is high. This seed is about to bear bitter fruit. Conclusion: before envy takes root, ask God to pull it out while it's still a seed. The light of truth only enters hearts that are willing to be broken. Conclusion: the origin of envy. Envy is more than a human feeling. It is a spiritual distortion that began in heaven, contaminated the earth, and continues to be one of the enemy's most destructive weapons. Lucifer desired God's throne. He wanted to be like God. Cain could not bear the favor of Abel. Since then, this root has grown in untreated hearts. It destroys from within before it manifests itself on the outside. Envy is a thermometer of a heart that has not yet understood its value before God, and when it is not confronted, it turns into bitterness, murmuring, division, and ultimately destruction. But there is hope. The first step to being free from envy is to recognize its presence. The second is to surrender to the Holy Spirit and allow Him to purify your heart. God has not called us to compete, but to fulfill our unique and eternal purpose. True victory is not having what others have. It is living what God has written exclusively for you. Will we grow together? If this message spoke to you, visit our website/blog now and delve into more studies that will build your spiritual life. And don't forget to subscribe to the Unmasking the Enemy channel on YouTube so you don't miss any content about biblical wisdom, deep revelations, and life transformation. Share this study with someone and help to uproot this seed before it destroys more hearts.